Welcome back, everyone. We are here again on YouTube and LinkedIn with another exciting episode of the Top Innovator Series. This is where we dive into leadership ideas and game changing strategies. And of course, we hear from the brilliant minds behind them. My name is Josef Martens, and I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today. With us today is Divya Rathanlal. She is the Chief Information Officer with Austin Water. Before that, she held other tech leadership roles, and we're thrilled to have her with us today. Divya, it's an absolute pleasure to have you in the conversation here.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here today.
So, Divya, the topic is leadership. You're clearly successful in your journey as a leader in technology. When you reflect on your own journey, when you look at what you've accomplished, what do you attribute your success to? What do you think are the ingredients that got you to where you are today?
The leadership lessons that have shaped me most didn't come from success. They came from moments when everything felt uncertain. So, looking back, many of my defining moments in my career were never planned. Curiosity helped shape it. So, anytime there was a new opportunity, my instinct was to raise my hand. And that
Hmm.
meant there were projects that I signed up for that nobody else wanted to tackle. And there were certain challenges that I volunteered where there were not any clear answers. So, pretty much, if I want to sum it up, it's the curiosity and the willingness to lean in, figure things out that kind of led me into the path where I am today.
Is this something that you realized at some point that this is a winning approach, that you have to step up in moments of uncertainty, that you have to take the extra step of courage, maybe? Or is this innate to you? Is this your nature and it comes out of you?
I would say it was a combination of both because as slowly started raising my hand more often than people realized, I saw something organically happen. Like leadership was reaching out to me when there were challenging situations surface, and I was like a de facto in those
Hmm.
conversations. They leaned on me because I did not have all, not because I had all the answers, but they trusted that I could navigate that complexity and take those things forward. And I think that's where it was an humbling experience when I realized that leadership was born in me before even titles emerged. And the other thing I realized was people see leadership in you long before you see it in yourself. And I was fortunate to have hiring managers who
Okay.
recognized that and built on it.
Okay, that's cool. Let's talk about those managers. And I imagine, in addition to those, you had role models, you had mentors, you had trusted advisors who were by your side. What did you pick up from them when you think back to them? What are lessons you learned from them? Something that you're still holding on to today?
I will say there was one mentor who kind of came and gave me something that I hold still close today. And
Okay.
that was I don't want to sound like a cliché, but when it gets tough, only the tough get going. And the way she phrased it was there was there were circumstances where I felt lost, and that's when she came and told me, don't feel yourself as a victim, go emerge as a hero. And that's when you needed that push. And that mentorship is not about, yeah, it'll get better, it'll be okay, but it's also giving that push when you need it. And that's where that mentorship advice really helped me, and that's something I hold close even today.
But I imagine that's advice that sounds great with hindsight. Being in the situation, that's probably not easy to heed that advice, right?
I would say there have been challenges along the way because let's be honest, um, technology changes, organizations evolve, and crises happen. But the common thing that a lot of people think technology leadership is about is having a vision and technical depth. But there is a whole third dimension to it, and that's emotional steadiness. And that's where the whole thing about you knowing what, providing clarity to your team,
Yeah,
preserving the team, and protecting their focus is what it is all about. So
got it.
if you need to stand up for your team, that's where
Mm,
you
yeah, got it. Did you get some advice, or what advice did you get from your mentors, from past managers or trusted advisors, where you thought, this makes no sense? I really don't get it. This is bad advice. And that's what it seemed like at the time. And now, when you think back of it, you're wondering maybe there was something to it. Maybe they had something and I didn't see it at that time.
I I won't say that I was like, okay, let me rephrase that question if possible.
Okay,
Like, what kind of changed from what I thought technology leadership was to what it
perfect.
is today? So the pandemic impacted a lot of people in a lot of ways. And for me, until the pandemic, I thought leadership was structured. You had a mission, you had a path forward, you had a roadmap, and that's what you built on. But when I was leading the whole pandemic initiative, one
Mm,
thing that I realized pretty soon was there was no blueprint. We had
mm,
to figure out the decisions we made had immediate impact on real people, and that involved communities, first line workers, and
yeah,
even our own teams that were showing up even after being exhausted. And that meant you were not, your end goal was not perfection, it was
mm.
momentum. And that's what I realized pretty soon
Very
leading
cool.
that process.
Yeah. And that's a great example for taking these risky steps as well, or dealing with ambiguity and uncertainty. Yeah. What was a moment in your leadership journey where you were surprised by the outcome? A situation where you thought you have a clear idea of what will happen, and it turned out to be completely different.
Um, I will say, I'll go back to my previous example.
Mhm.
Like when we were working through the pandemic, everything was like you mentioned, it was ambiguous. Like there were a lot of things that you had to peel through to figure out what the outcomes were. And then what I realized was it was not the technology that kind of gave me that wow moment. It was the human side of
Yeah.
things. I saw small teams produce extraordinary results just because leadership trusted in them. It was not large team, it was not perfect structures, but people who showed up every day because they felt their work mattered.
Yeah.
And for me, the biggest thing was since it was a fluid situation and you got a lot of input, a lot of ideas from all directions, for me, the process was to absorb that and protect the team so that they can continue doing what they were supposed to do. That's one of the biggest things that I learned through that
Yeah.
process.
Nice example. Now, Divya, we spoke about the past. I would like to put the spotlight onto the present time. And again, these are not questions about organizations or titles or roles. It's still about your leadership journey. When you look at where you are today, what's an area where you think that you can grow? What's an area where you feel there is more I can do, there is more I can get, there is a next level for me?
Mhm. A lot of times, technology leaders see themselves as pure technologists. And my career transition from being from a centralized technology team
Mhm.
into a utility, which is at the intersection of like a natural resource and
Mhm.
like intensive environment. So that combination is a whole different perspective where you need to know the business of water. And the better you educate yourself on what the business feels and how the business moves, the better you can support the business. So, the role of a technology leader has changed from being a pure technologist to be a relationship builder, to be that integrated piece, to be that translator. And that's what I'm currently working on.
That's very cool. I didn't expect you to say it's a relationship builder. I expected you to go towards business leadership role or so. So I'm surprised that you go as far as saying the role is a relationship builder. Say a bit more there. What makes it unique for technologists then? What's the sort of relationships from whom to whom, or what sort of the sweet spot where we are?
the reason I use relationship builder is I believe in that because
Hmm.
you have technology teams and then you have your business folks, and then they talk the business language and they have the technology language, and then you serve as an interpreter. At the same time, you need to understand how do you interpret that high level goals, that vision into
Mm,
tactical items. So translating that strategy into tactical
got it.
avenues
Yeah.
is what I mean in that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, a translator almost, right? That's part of the role as well. Do you have something like a preferred, favorite, or go to leadership tool? Something that when things don't work out in your team, when things are not running as smoothly, there is something that you do or something that you pull out of your tool set that's your go to strategy then?
I will not say it's a technology tool, but I do have some background in service design. So it's more about using those concepts, like getting everybody in the room and talking through.
Mhm.
The sticky notes are some of my favorite tools. It's not technology, but it works. And that's where you start brainstorming. And one of my biggest principles is you need to create that atmosphere, a room
Mhm.
where people have the confidence to question and tell things, which you create
Yeah,
that safety net where people are able to express what they do. And that's what I really thrive.
got it. Yeah. Let's shift over into the future, Divya, and take a look at what the future of leadership might hold. What do you think will change in leadership in the future? What will be different in 5 years and 10 years as we lead other people or lead teams or lead in the organizations?
I think from my perspective, the way I see leadership progressing is people really want leaders to be open, to be
Mhm.
honest, and to be transparent. They are not expecting you to have all the answers because they believe they can help figure out the answers. They want
Mhm.
you to create that community of trust where they can lean on you and they can trust you to provide them space. You don't need to go and provide those answers because once you do, that vision kind of narrows down. Once you are the last to speak, once leaders start listening, once they provide the power to their teams to come up with ideas, the focus
Mhm.
widens. And that's what I truly believe is where leadership is heading towards.
Yeah. Got it. So, what's the best way to prepare for that? If you have a leader who's already at least mid journey or senior already, how would they best prepare for what lies ahead of them in terms of leadership? Again, not technology, just the leadership part of the role that they have.
So, one of the things that any leader needs to realize is when that when they leave the organization continues or needs to thrive beyond them. And for that, like you
Mm,
said, what leadership skills we need to develop in them is more about creating that awareness that people are your focus. I know a lot of times people say people when we say what is leadership or technical leadership made about people, process, and technology. You invest in your
right.
people, and process and technology will follow. And that's something that I keep telling to my teams, like take care of your people, they'll take care of the rest.
Got it. Got it. Divya, let me ask you a last question and then we'll wrap it up. If you had a magic wand and you could change something about how many leaders lead their organizations, you could make one change, one swooping change, what would that be?
I will say a lot of times leaders set the tone for their teams,
Mhm.
whether they intend to or not. If I show panic, the system shows panic. If I show that I'm steady, they will breathe and continue to work. So that's something I think we as leaders need to realize that we reflect the mood in the room. And that's how we need to position ourselves.
That's powerful. And you're absolutely right. If the leaders start panicking, the organization starts panicking. And leaders often don't realize how much they create the context in which the organization operates. Yeah.
Yeah.
Divya, thank you so much. Been an absolute pleasure having you in the conversation here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
To everyone else out there, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, join us again for our next episode. Until then, keep your brain cells active.